Manitoba Junior Hockey League Round 1 playoff start on Friday, and it took until the very last day, almost to the very last second, to decide the first round opponent for the Dauphin Kings. It will be the Waywayseecappo Wolverines. I'm Dave Anthony, joined with Kevin Pauls, Cody Bueller, and voice of the Dauphin Kings, Darnell Duff. And Darnell, let's start with you. The Kings have been waiting for quite a while to find out who they play in the playoffs. Safe to say they've treaded water to this point. They've had some good games, they've had some not so good games. Can this team turn it on, or do you expect them to start ramping it up here right away with the playoffs right around the corner?
Yeah, I think this team is only going to ramp up and they're only going to get better. They've had some significant injuries to significant players. Caden Glover, who was off to perhaps a historic season. Like we haven't seen a 50-goal scorer since in 15 years, and he was on pace for 50 when he was injured on January 31st. Havril Simchuk had 5 goals in his previous 6 games before he was injured. He hasn't played for the better part of a month. Gavin Nemes was out for a couple of weeks. Madden Murray, who is playing on the top line as well, he's projected to be back in the first line. So this is a Kings team, Dave, that is starting to get healthy at the right time. And this is also a Kings team that even when they weren't healthy, they were playing some pretty darn good hockey. They beat the Winkler Flyers back on February 9th. A couple of days before that, as you mentioned, came back against the Pistons to get that game to a shootout. They have played some real good hockey. They beat the Niverville Nighthawks. And even in the final weekend of the regular season, with 7 affiliate players in, they could have beat Neepawa, who had their playoff roster, and they also played Waywayseecappo. That was a tight game against the Wolverines team that had their playoff roster. So I think now that Dauphin is getting healthy and they have this week off to get prepared for the first round of the Big Dance, that's going to be extremely beneficial. It's a team that is certainly feeling really good heading into round 1.
Yeah, and say what you will, 7 APs against a team you might meet in the first round maybe signals you maybe wanted to meet them in the first round. Cody Bueller, is that going to end up costing the Dauphin Kings a little bit as the Wolverines have been playing playoff style hockey for the last few weeks just to get in on the dance?
Well, it definitely might. It could be seen as that from the outside, just seeing resting players, and then the team that beats you is the one that makes the playoffs and you meet in the first round. But I think Dauphin is positioned pretty well here in this matchup. This is the largest point spread in the playoffs, with Dauphin finishing where they were. Waywayseecappo, if this was a 1 through 8, Waywayseecappo wouldn't have even made the playoffs if you were just taking the best 8 teams in the league. It's going to be tough for the Wolverines. They lost some of their offense midway through. Mushimansky no longer with the team. And so I think it's going to be really tough when everybody's there and everybody's playing full strength, ready to go playoff hockey. I think it's going to be pretty tough for the Wolverines to overcome this tough team in the Dauphin Kings.
Kevin Pauls, our goalie guru, Cole Sheffield, obviously one of the top goaltenders in the province. And Mariko Bercier has played very well for the Wolverines when they needed him to. Big shout out against Verdun at home to kind of give them the advantage, which eventually got them to punch their way into the playoffs. Give us a sense of this goaltending battle. You've seen both guys a couple of times this year, so give us your thoughts of the crease.
Well, Cole Sheffield can flat out steal games. Some of the saves I've seen him make this year are, highlight worthy and regular, like on a regular basis. And Marco Bercier, the same. I've seen him play, and he's capable of really athletic plays. He's also quiet in net, makes a lot of saves, and gives his team a chance to win on most nights. It's going to be a matter, though, of the Waywayseecappo Wolverines playing optimally, and if the Dauphin Kings are healthy, that is going to be a very tall task because they have a lot of offensive weapons at their disposal. It's going to be, I think I really like the point, though, that the Wolverines have played, that playoff style hockey just to get in. There is a huge point disparage, but at this point, all bets are off, like we talked about in other series, and it's going to be who comes to play right off the bat.
Darnell Duff, back to you. You talked about the forwards coming back. You talked about how dangerous they can be up front. Let's talk about the back end. We know what Manny Thomas can do. We know what Naaman Hofer can do. Do they have the depth to kind of survive what playoff hockey is about? And that's the forechecking, the moving the pucks quick. Take us through your thoughts on the Dauphin Kings back end and how you expect them to kind of attack the Wolverines in round 1.
Yeah, the short answer, in my opinion, is absolutely. You go from the top pairing, as you mentioned, Naaman Hofer, what he's done, Magroll as well on the third pairing. You have Ty Pratt. You have everything you need, in my opinion, to lock down opponents. And I mean, they've had great success The season series was split 3 games apiece. They won 8-0 in game one, then some real tight games, and then ultimately leading up to that Riley Cisa goal with .1 on the clock on Saturday. But I think this is a decor for Dauphin that is extremely deep, starting off with your top guy, Naaman Hofer, committed Division One, and going right down to the third line. They can play fast, they can play physical, they can knock you down, and they're not going to go down without a fight. So I think the Dauphin Kings have exactly what you need. Now, the Wolverines have some talent up front as well. So not like it's going to be an easy challenge by no matter of the word. It's the playoffs. It's a whole different beast. But this is a Kings team that is certainly pretty deep on the back end.
Absolutely. Cody, we talk about Waywayseecappo coming in as the underdog, playing playoff style hockey, playing a little bit looser. And, they don't have necessarily a go-to guy, like you pointed out, anymore. So that makes their entire forward group kind of dangerous. Do you think that plays into their hands a little bit? And do you think that could be a factor to help Wayway, maybe steal a game or two early in this series? And like we talked about before, put a bit of the seed of doubt in the mind of the Dauphin Kings and maybe push them mentally in this series early.
Yeah, I think that can be good for the Wolverines. I know we've talked about how Dauphin is a really good team. They finished first in the division for a reason, but they're not a perfect team. There's definitely room for the Wolverines to be able to capitalize. And I think that if the Wolverines can take advantage of some of their chances, the biggest factor I think for the Kings is going to be Cole Sheffield. He's I think the best player on the Kings. And I think if the Wolverines can get to him, they definitely have a chance to take a few games.
Kevin, behind the bench, it's the experience of Doug Headley versus the youthful exuberance of Landon Cochran. Just again to get his team into the playoffs is phenomenal. Great for the Waywayseecappo Wolverines. Heard they had a packed barn in one of their final games at home, which is great and it should carry over. But the coaching experience obviously tilts towards the Dauphin Kings. How much does that kind of factor into a playoff series? And do you think that Doug Headley can help coach his team to a playoff series victory?
Well, Doug Headley brings a wealth of experience along with Chad Facey and their entire coaching crew. So no doubt about that. What the Waywayseecappo Wolverines are going to have to do is bring this by committee. It's got to be a full buy-in, and every team has that. But let's face it, in this case, I think there's definitely a lean towards the Dauphin Kings here, and to me, it all does fall on Cole Sheffield. If he brings his best, its goals are going to be hard to come by. Jackson Gross-Didier is going to have to lead the way for his team and get them on the scoreboard. And like you said, early create a seed of doubt. But man, if the Wolverines can find lightning in a bottle and really rally around the community, anything can happen.
Yeah, we've seen, the sword pulled from the stone before, and the Dauphin Kings have been a heavy favorite in a playoff series and have fallen. We've seen that throughout the years. Darnell Duff, let's go to the new segment. Random final thoughts. Just anything that maybe enters your mind heading into the series, or something that's been discussed you'd like to elaborate on.
I guess my one thought is, can Waywayseecappo get back up? There's been so much talk in the last few minutes of they've been playing playoff hockey for quite some time. And yes, they have. They've had to do that just to get into the big dance. But that goal that was scored by Riley Cisa, which they ultimately did not need because Vernon lost their last game against Nipawin. Nonetheless, that was like a Stanley Cup celebration and so cool. Waywayseecappo hasn't made the playoffs for a few years. It's awesome that they got in the big dance, and well-deserved for Landon Cochran, who, fun fact, was playing against the Kings the last time these two teams played in the playoffs back in the Survivor Series in 2015. But after all the highs they got with getting to the big dance and a week off, can they get back to where they need to be to get into that playoff mode? Going to be interesting to see if they can.
Cody Bueller, your final thoughts ahead of Dauphin versus Waywayseecappo.
Final thoughts. Again, I just think the overall point gap in the standings really illustrates kind of the gap between these two teams. And I think the Dauphin Kings are going to be a really tough opponent for Waywayseecappo in round one.
Kevin Pauls, your thoughts.
We can talk all we want about the statistics and how these teams line up, but I'm excited for both communities. Dauphin's a great hockey community. It'll be nice to see that rink packed. And the same goes for the Waywayseecappo Wolverines. I'm pumped for guys like Matty Higgs who get to be a part of that organization and get to see this team climb into the playoffs. No matter what their position is, they feel like they've got one hand on the trophy like everybody else. So go get it.
Absolutely. I think, oftentimes in a series like this, we overthink things or we try and make it more so than it really needs to be. Dauphin should win this series. They're deeper up front. They've got elite goaltending. They're very good on the back end. Special teams, I think they have the edge. It doesn't take away from what Waywayseecappo has or what they can give. And hey, underdogs win. We all know that. But the Dauphin Kings are where they are for a reason. They hung around despite their key injuries. They still stayed atop. They fought off a very hardworking Blizzard team to get home ice advantage in round one, especially and throughout the division as well. So let's not try and overthink it too much. The Kings are a powerhouse, but you never know. That's why we play the series. Speaking of Darnell Duff, your predictions: Dauphin versus Waywayseecappo. Who do you like, and in how many games?
Now, I think Miracle Bercier has the ability to steal a hockey game, but this isn't a long series. As you mentioned, Doug, Dauphin is the superior team, top to bottom. Cole Sheffield gets the edge over Bercier. Decor gets the edge. Forwards get the edge, and coaching gets the edge as well. So, Wayway pushes hard, but Dauphin in 5.
Cody Bueller.
Man, me and Darnell really have been matching in these predictions so far, and he said what exactly kind of what I was thinking, so I was going to go Dauphin in 5 as well.
Kevin Pauls.
I'm a dreamer, boys, and I want some of these games to go late, and I want Wayway to win a double overtime at home just to blow the roof off that barn. So I'm hoping this one goes 6, but I ultimately think Wayway will fall to Dauphin, so Dauphin in 6 games.
I'm going to take the Dauphin Kings in 4. I think that it's going to be a sweep. You don't often hear, sweep predictions, but I'm going to take the Kings in a sweep because I just like Darnell said, I think there might be a bit of a dip with Wayway. I think the guys who are coming back are going to be very upset. They've missed out on so much of the regular season, so they're going to be flying. And Doug Headley knows how to adjust in game and after games to be very successful. And then, of course, Cole Sheffield. So I'm going to take the Dauphin Kings in 4. Still love Matty Higgs, though. So that was a really nice shout out to him. Gentlemen, before we go, a player, Darnell, that you believe is going to be an X factor in the series, Dauphin versus Waywayseecappo, and it can be on either side.
Yeah, I'm taking Havril Simchuk. As mentioned, hasn't played for the better part of a month. This guy is just an 18-year-old. The guy creates offense. He goes hard to the net. It seems every time he's out there, he's creating something. I think he's up to something pretty special, and I think he's going to be a catalyst to the team's success.
Cody Bueller, an X factor in the Dauphin versus Waywayseecappo series.
I've been picking defense, and I think Naaman Hofer is going to be one to watch for the Kings. The way he moves the puck, but I think it's going to be important for him to stay out of the box over 82 penalty minutes this season, and so I think it's going to be important for him, and I think he could be a big factor in this series for them.
Kevin Pauls, your thoughts on a player who might be an X factor?
It's easy to say. I mean, it's not even an X factor. It's more like an A factor. People come to watch hockey for exciting exploits on the ice, and Cole Sheffield is the guy to provide it. So, I pay my ticket money to watch that type of stuff, and he's my reason for tuning into this series. I'm pretty stoked to watch him.
Okay, so despite that I took Dauphin to win in 4, my X factor is from the Waywayseecappo Wolverines. I am a big Sebastian Hicks fan. I think he's got the size, he's got the skating, he's got the shot. Put up 22 goals, which was second to Grostidier throughout the regular season. I think Hicks can have a big time playoff series. I think he'll be targeted by the Kings. I think they're going to try and knock him off of his game. But if Waywayseecappo is to get a game or more, I think a lot of it is going to have to do with Sebastian Hicks. So that's my X factor, despite my series predictions. Gentlemen, thanks for doing this, and look forward to chatting again down the road.